Hey, everybody, welcome back to Gita Collective. And we're continuing now with our November's study, which is study number 2. And today we have lesson number 8. And, today I'm coming to you from Rishikesh, live from Rishikesh, or I guess maybe recorded for you, all of you, but live from here right now. And it's good to be here. I left New York a couple of days ago. I'm here now. I'm jet lagging like crazy, but happy to be diving back into the Bhagavad Gita with you. And we, our last lesson was lesson number 7. Today we go into lesson number 8. But last lesson we looked at text number 6-8 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna described the vision of the yogi in terms of you can say like in relation to matter, the ability to see varieties of matter is the same. And you may remember they see pebbles, stones, and gold with equal vision. It was a lesson about evenness of perception, the ability to see beyond our programmed likes and dislikes. So I'll read that text again. Here it is. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when they are fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. They see everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, is the same. Okay. Now, Krishna is going to go beyond seeing matter the same. He's going to push this idea a bit further and a bit harder in today's lesson. Seeing matter equally is one thing. Seeing people equally, that's a whole nother level of equal vision. And that's where today's verse goes. It's the following verse in the Bhagavad Gita, text 6-9. Let's take a look at it. I'll read the translation. A person is considered still further advanced when they regard honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Now, you might notice that this verse, it's somewhat similar to a text that we looked at earlier, text 5:18, where Krishna was speaking about how a learned person, a pandit, sees with equal vision a brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. But there's some differences here, and they're significant. First of all, what's being spoken about in this verse is all humans. That's one thing. And you may notice, like, a lot of times I see people say, like, I've had enough of humans. Like, I hate humans. I love animals, like they love their pets or whatever. They have enough of humans. It can be difficult to have an even mind when we're dealing with other humans. So first of all, it's all humans. But second of all, the people the yogis to see equally here are people that they're personally involved with. Just like Arjuna on that battlefield, it wasn't just in general that you see, a Brahmin that you don't know and a dog eater that you don't know is the same. Here, he's got to see the people in his own life, the people that he deals with, in all different varieties of people with equal vision. So in this verse, Krishna's giving a list of 9 categories of people. It's really a spectrum of the kind of human personalities that we all meet and we all have to deal with in our lives. So let's go through them. He begins with the suhrit, the well-wishers, right? Suhrit, it's literally su means good and hrit means hearted. So a good-hearted person that naturally wishes you well. The next one is the mitra, the benefactors. These are people that have particular affection for you for some reason. Mitra can also mean like an ally. And then there's udasina. Now here the word asana is related to asana. It means the neutral. Uda asana means sitting above. In other words, kind of like aloof, right? There's some people that they're just our challenges and our ups and downs and our likes and dislikes and so on. They're aloof to them. So they're neutral. And then there's the madhyastha. Madhyastha means like the mediators, people who are right in the middle of it, like maybe in the middle of you and another person, right? And they can mediate, right? They're fair. They're not taking your side, but they're not against you. And then there's the dvesha, the envious, right? People that are downright set against you. They don't like you. They're hostile towards you. They actually wish you harm, right? Okay. And then there's the bandhushu, the bandhus, right? The friends. And bandhu can also mean like a relative as well. So, there's a intimacy there. Then the ari, the enemies. And the sadhushu, the sadhus, right? The pious people, the dharmic people. And then the papeshu, the sinners, right? The people that don't follow dharma. So he's covering a whole map of human interaction, from the people who are kind to us to the ones who trigger us or even wish us harm. And the yogi is being asked to see them all with a steady, equal intelligence. But this is so important that we really understand what's being said. This equality that's being spoken about here isn't some kind of naive sentiment. It's spiritual clarity. It's grounded in the perception of the presence of divine spirit within every living being, the presence that binds us all together. So this vision is the mark of real advancement. It was it was quite challenging to see someone hand you a bar of gold, says this is yours, right? Can you respond equally if someone gave you a rock? That was challenging, but this is said to be even more challenging. And one who can see their friends and enemies, those that wish them well, those that wish them harm, and see them equally. This type of vision is the hallmark, you could say, of real deep yogic spiritual advancement. Not so much the ability to sit still, but the ability to stay steady, to have a steady mind in the presence of all varieties of people. Now, I would like to share some related verses from another Gita spoken by Sri Krishna, the Uddhava Gita. Maybe many of you haven't heard of the Uddhava Gita before, but this is Krishna's instructions to his dear friend Uddhava, and they're found in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's really, I'm looking forward to when in our podcast we get to the 11th. I mean, of course, I'm very happy to be in the 10th canto, and we're going to be there for a long time. But the 11th canto has incredibly clear, beautiful instructions to how to practice bhakti, how to practice yoga. And we'll hear some of them right now. So let's dive right in. This is from Uddhava Gita, 11th canto, chapter 29. And we'll begin with text 13 and 14. Krishna says, "O brilliant Uddhava, one who thus views all living entities with the idea that I am present within each of them, and who by taking shelter of this divine knowledge offers due respect to everyone, is considered actually wise. Such a person sees equally the Brahmana and the outcast, the thief and the charitable promoter of Brahminical culture, the sun and the tiny sparks of fire, the gentle and the cruel." Now, ordinarily, the ability to distinguish between such opposites would qualify one as being intelligent, right? They have clear discernment. How then can Krishna state that ignoring such obvious differences establishes one as a wise person? Because a wise person sees not only the distinctions in material energy, they also see the oneness in terms of the spiritual energy. Okay, they're seeing both channels here, both channels. Sometimes, especially like if you see if you're behind the scenes of some security, like sometimes you're like in maybe some kind of department store or something like that, and you can see that behind the counter, not even department, in New York, when you go into bodega practically, they got like cameras going down all the different aisles, and there's one screen but there's many screens open on that screen, many channels open on that screen, different camera angles. And so one person is looking at one screen but seeing different channels open. And that's kind of like how our vision has to be, that we can see the distinctions in terms of the material circumstance, what kind of person that we're dealing with. This person is saintly and this person is a sinner. I may have to deal with him a little differently externally, but I have another channel open where I'm seeing the oneness, where I'm seeing the oneness in terms of spiritual energy, being able to perceive the soul of equal, pure spiritual quality underneath the differences in bodies and mindsets. And this is the yogi's vision. And they also perceive that Krishna, as the Paramatma, is dwelling within everyone. So they're seeing a pure soul just like themselves, and they're seeing Krishna as the Paramatma right in the heart of the being that they're dealing with. Therefore, although externally perceiving and dealing with the varieties of material relationships, a wise person is ultimately more impressed by, more moved by, more, let's say, more concerned with the overwhelming unity of all existence. This takes a zoomed out perspective. This takes a very deeply well-informed intelligence and a vision that has matured and cultured that knowledge into the eyes of knowledge, right? Where you're seeing both things very clearly. Now, text number 15, continuing in the Uddhava Gita. For one who constantly meditates upon my presence, Krishna is saying, within all persons, listen to this. I'll read it again. For one who constantly meditates upon my presence within all persons, the bad tendencies of rivalry, envy, and abusiveness, along with false ego, are very quickly destroyed. Right? Meditating on the presence of God, sitting next to the soul within the body of every living being. All right? It directly addresses our lower nature. Here's it's interesting. It mentions rivalry, envy, and abusiveness. We tend to feel rivalry. We tend to feel rivalry towards our equals, and we tend to feel envy towards our superiors, some hostility. And we tend to feel maybe a bit of desire to belittle our subordinates, maybe be a little abusive to our subordinates. These destructive propensities, along with their very basis, the false ego, can be quickly vanquished, Krishna is saying, by meditating upon him within every living being. Powerful, right? This is how yogis transform. They actually reflect on this. They actually set aside all of their petty concerns and see this, cultivate this vision. The next, Krishna gives a very interesting exercise to take away. We've been sharing exercises at the end of each one of the lessons. Well, this is his exercise. He says, think about this. Now really think about what Krishna is talking. Krishna was like the prince of Dwarka at this stage, at very, regal. And Uddhava was this incredibly refined counselor and just an amazingly respectable person. But this is Krishna's instruction to him. He says, disregarding the ridicule of one's companions, don't worry about all the people that you know and that they may ridicule you for doing this. Disregarding the ridicule of one's companions, one should give up the bodily conception and its accompanying embarrassment. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, the outcasts, the cows and the asses, falling flat on the ground like a rod. That's what he's asking Uddhava to do. Right? Go out, find a cow, hit the deck. Right? Show it deep respect. See me in the heart of that being. Right? He continues in text 17. Until one has fully developed the ability to see me within all living beings, one must continue to worship me by this process with the activities of his speech, mind, and body. Right? Until you really see me everywhere, I want you to bow down to every living being. Right? And try to see me in them. Do it with your words. Offer them nice words. Do it in your mind. Reflect on who they are and their spiritual status. And do it with your body. Go ahead and lie down and give dandavats in the street, setting aside all ridicule that you may get, not worrying about that. He continues, by such transcendental knowledge of the all-pervading personality of Godhead, one is able to see the absolute truth everywhere. Freed thus from all doubts, one gives up fruitive activities. One gives up their material endeavors, right? And finally, in text 19, indeed, I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me within all living beings, to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. Wow. Okay, that's really, we can see that this Our ability to advance in yoga has so much to do with how we see and respond to and treat other living entities. All right. Now, to close, I want to share one final thought. I think this is important. Sometimes in response to this verse, the text 6:9 that we read today, or similar verses, people ask, it's hard enough to see those who are friendly towards us and those who are hostile towards us with the same vision. But how are we supposed to see the sinful and the saintly as equal? Aren't they truly very different? And aren't people responsible for their behavior? And shouldn't they be held responsible for their behavior? You understand what I mean? In other words, I'm supposed to treat someone who does horrible activities and someone who does wonderful activities and see them as the same, but they're not the same. And this one should be, justice needs to be served to this one. And this one should be actually honored and rewarded. Isn't that true? This verse isn't denying that. It's not saying that. And Krishna certainly isn't telling Arjuna to ignore those differences. If you think, on one level he is, right? With one eye, he's saying, see the differences. Why? Because he's saying, I want you to fight, right? Krishna didn't say, Arjuna, see everybody here equally, and therefore just treat them all equally. He's saying, I want you to see the soul in everyone. I want you to understand them. But I want you to fight, because it's the right thing to do here. But he never says, I want you to hate, right? Because that would be seeing illusion. That would be an illusory vision. So equality of vision doesn't mean we shouldn't respond appropriately in this world. It means that beneath all the external differences, beneath the body, beneath the programming of the mind, even beneath a distorted or hostile mindset, there is a pure soul. We need to always be aware of that, to have that channel of awareness open on the screen, right? And when the truth becomes real for us, this truth about the spiritual equality, and that vision becomes clear, then hatred simply has no place to stand. We don't lose clarity. We lose contempt. And what fills that space is the capacity to love, and to love every single living being, not just sentimentally, but from a place of truth. So when we see in that way, our vision aligns with Krishna's vision. He loves every living being. And to move towards that alignment and towards a vision in alignment with his vision is to evolve. Okay. So for lesson 8's exercise today, I think you may already know where I'm going with this. Krishna gives a very interesting practice in the Uddhava Gita. I'll read it again. Disregarding the ridicule of one's companions. I want you all to not worry if you're going to be ridiculed for doing this, all right? One should give up the bodily conception. Throw it away, throw it off. And its accompanying embarrassment. I'm not embarrassed by lying down on the sidewalk in the middle of the city and offering my obeisances to a pigeon, right? So he continues again. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, the outcasts, the cows and asses falling flat upon the ground like a rod. So let's try this out. In the coming days, deliberately seek out one being or several, a person or a creature whom you normally overlook or maybe even feel some aversion toward. And slow down and remind yourself, within this body is a pure soul, no different in purity from the souls I love most. The externals may be unappealing, but the soul within is spotless. And then when you encounter them, pause inwardly. Interrupt your usual reaction for just a moment and reflect briefly. What is my immediate response here? What label or story do I place on them? Just notice it. And then offer, if not a full-on external gesture, at least an inner gesture as Krishna prescribed. I honor the pure soul within you, the pure soul that you are, and I honor Krishna's presence within you. If this requires giving up the bodily conception and some accompanying embarrassment, then all the better, right? So observe any shift in your mind and heart. Does the aversion soften a bit? Does the heart open even slightly? Does your vision become a bit more clear, a bit more aligned with the vision of Krishna? Okay, that's all for today, everyone. That was lesson number 8. I look forward to getting together with you again soon for lesson number 9. Thank you all so much. It's a real privilege to be able to study Bhagavad-gītā with you. The fact that over 1,000 of you are here checking in and following along with this means a lot to me. It encourages me tremendously. And thank you again. Hari Om Tat Sat.